Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Eerie International, episode 470 this week. My name is David from the United States.
I'm Andi from Germany.
And I'm Dave from the UK.
And Dave, you have just enjoyed a great bowl of pasta. We were just talking about it before the episode.
Indeed, I
what kind of pasta did you have? I missed that part.
Fusilli. So it's
Nice.
it's the twisty shit for people that aren't sure what type of pasta is what. So yeah, nice.
Isn't it just I've got a lot of coffee in me, so I'm gonna already go off on a tangent. Isn't it just one of life's simplest delights that we have so many varieties of shapes of pasta and names for each one?
Yeah.
Like what a simple but yet just great thing.
Half of which I have no idea what the actual names are, so I call them seashells or
Sure.
tubes or like literally if it wasn't for if it wasn't for the fact that I read the packet before I made my meal today, I couldn't even have told you this was fusilli. I'm not Italian by birthright.
I was
going to
say,
like that.
We're a very international podcast, and we don't even have an Italian represented here for proper pasta representation, but we do what we can. Welcome to the podcast. Surprisingly, not about pasta. It's about horror movies. If this is your first time listening, welcome to the show. We talk about horror stuff, whether it's horror movies, comics, video games, TV shows, novels, all kinds of media, however you want to say that word.
We do have an episode on creepypasta, by the way.
Oh, that's true. That's a great point, Dave. Thank you for tying it all together.
You're welcome.
We do have a creepypasta episode. If this is your first time listening, welcome to the show. You can find us wherever you found us, along with other places, probably. We're also on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can send us some longer form thoughts, as someone did this week. I'll get to that in a second, over at eerieinternational@gmail.com. This week we're talking about the brand new film Frankenstein from Guillermo del Toro. It is now playing on Netflix and was playing in theaters. So you have options, or you had options. I don't know if they crossed over at all. Maybe you had only ever one option and it changed from theater to Netflix. I'm not sure if there was crossover or not. But it is currently on Netflix if you have access to that, if you want to watch it before you come back and listen to us talk about it. As always, we don't do spoiler warnings, but I'll say one now because it's a brand new movie. Sure, we're going to spoil it. Before we get to that, though, let's get into this email. This is from our friend Smart Otaku. Hello, Eerie International. This is a Smart Otaku here to say hello and see how you all are doing. Just wanted to drop in and leave a couple of recommendations and a bonus message. Hope you're doing well. Take care. First one, Animal Human. This is a manga, falls into the horror psychological genres. I like that he put, so he usually does a synopsis, a little breakdown, and then moves on to personal opinions. Synopsis, he just has an N/A, so no description. And then personal opinions are as follows. Where do I begin? Where do I begin? Where do I fucking begin? And I trust me that I have added in the appropriate pauses and line breaks. I had heard of this manga through a random YouTube recommendation and wanted to see for myself what it was about. I was mostly in the dark when I started reading, but had a good idea of what to expect, or so I thought. I've only read the first volume, and I refuse to read anymore because I am scared of where this story is going to go. Solid recommend. Andi and Dave, before I interject here, have either of you heard of this or know anything about it?
I don't think so. I meant to look it up and then I forgot, but I don't think that I've encountered it before.
Yeah, it's a new one to me.
Okay.
There are anime and manga that I can think of, like Beastars, that maybe fall into the
That's
same
where my
realm.
head went. Yeah,
But
that's
I
where my
feel
head
like
went too.
This one is very much from a Smart Otaku's description of his reaction. I think that this is very different to those. It probably just shares, like, animal characters. I don't even know.
So I was in the same camp as you guys. I ended up Googling it. Or I went to Amazon first to see, like, oh, is this out? Like, can I buy it? Blah, blah, blah. And there was one volume listed on Amazon, and it was a French translation. So it has not made it over here, at least, or in any English language that I could find. any English language. I guess it's the same language, but just, regional regional differences.
Two cultures divided by one language. Yeah.
Sure. But so I went to, I think I just then Googled, I already forgot what it's called. I almost called it Animal Planet. Animal Human. I then Googled Animal Human and found a subreddit that I assume, I didn't look to see what the subreddit did, but based off of how it was set up and the naming conventions and all that, I assume it's like a fan, they call them fanlations or something. They have a name for them, but it's like fan translations. It's like manga that hasn't been localized yet. And then, fans have done their own translations and updated the lettering in the manga, etc. And it was like, I think the entire full volume. So I read the first chapter of this fan translated manga, and it is pretty fucked up. Part of me doesn't want to say what it is, probably for similar reasons as a smart otaku, just because it was very fun going into it, completely, in the dark. And but I will say that some of your instincts are on point. There are anthropomorphic animals. There are also humans. And it has... So I've only read the first chapter. I think the thing that I clicked on it was probably the first full volume. It had like 5 chapters translated, but I only read the first chapter. So I don't know exactly where it's going to go, but based off of that first chapter, it reminded me some of... Shit, Dave, what's the name of that? Was it Goblin Slayer? Goblin Hunter? Something like that?
I think it was Goblin Slayer, yeah.
So definitely, I'm trying to remember if that had any like gross sex overtone stuff. This doesn't. So that aspect of it, or at least the first chapter didn't. But definitely had a similar vibe where you're watching or you're reading, in this case, something that falls into a particular genre, and then very quickly things go dark, and very quickly things go dark in a way where most other things don't typically go as dark. So it definitely had that sort of gut punch kind of like, oh shit, like this, they're not fucking around with this and where they're willing to go. So I've never read fan translated manga before. It felt slightly weird just because it was like, I guess this is probably illegal. I'm assuming like this is not official or whatever, but I was interested enough to at least add it to my radar, and might go back and finish it. But yeah, it was pretty creepy and had a cool idea and vibe and everything else. Had a little bit of splash of French new extremism to it. I also felt. I don't know. That might have just been me, but all right, back to the email. Let's see. Second up, Predator Badlands. Sci-fi coming of age action synopsis. Predator Badlands follows the story of Dek, a young Yautja warrior who wishes to prove himself a great hunter. After having been forced into exile by his clan, Dek travels to the most dangerous planet in the galaxy to hunt its most dangerous predator. A true Yautja is a predator to all and is prey to none. Dek's clan believes him weak, so he must slay the strong to prove his worth or die trying. Personal opinions. I enjoyed this movie. When I first heard about it, I was 100% on board with having the Predator as the protagonist, but had my reservations when it came to the main character's design. I have since grown to accept it, and having seen the movie, I can understand why they made that choice. That aside, I think this movie is good for what it is. In many ways, it reminds me of God of War and a variety of other AVP media I've looked into throughout the years. Admittedly, I feel like there's too much comedy in places that don't actually need it, but that's something I can overlook. Overall, I think this was a fun watch. There are more spoilery kind of observations here, so I'll just throw that out there because I do want to read them because I thought they were interesting. So if for anyone who hasn't seen the film, and I will be talking about it here shortly along with Dave and Andi, I would imagine, since we kind of skipped it last week knowing I was going to be seeing it. But I will throw a spoiler warning here just so I can kind of continue on with the email. First point he added, Dek's hunt for the Callisk and him using Thea as a guide reminds me of Ahab, a predator in the AVP comics. Ahab is a predator determined to hunt and engineer the albino humanoids from Prometheus, and he strong-arms Galgo, a human marine, to show him the location of one. At first, they're just captor and prisoner, but over time, Galgo and Ahab grow to respect each other and even banter back and forth despite the language barrier. One bit from that comic has Galgo telling a story of how he got a scar on his arm after saving people from a burning building, and when he points to a scar on Ahab's chest, Ahab wordlessly pulls up a hologram of a large monster. I thought that was pretty cool. Dek's views as he tells them to Thea reminds me a lot of the themes of God of War. In God of War, the 2018, not reboot, sequel, whatever you want to call it, Kratos tells his son that he must, quote, close his heart to the desperation and suffering of others. Do not feel for your enemy because they will not feel for you, end quote. Deck's relationship with Thea also reminds me of Kratos' relationship with Mimir. Mimir was Odin's former advisor who was permanently bound to a tree for suspected treason, and to free him, Kratos had to cut off Mimir's head and reanimate him so that he can act as his guide. I find it funny that Thea suggests that Deck be more like a wolf, since in AVP Requiem, and this is David interjecting here, the worst alien or predator thing to exist, the predator in that movie is named Wolf. Despite the many problems that AVP Requiem had, the one thing that is universally agreed upon is that Wolf was the best part of that movie. Wolf, unlike virtually every predator before him, is shown to be someone who knows what they're doing, and has seen it all. He is the one you send when things go horribly wrong, and for a while he was a massive fan favorite in the community. I also wanted to add there too, I saw it was a great observations all around, but I also saw Dan Trachtenberg. I saw a couple clips of him talking about the video game influences on Predator Badlands, in very like key specific ways that when he breaks them down, you're just like, oh shit, yeah, I see that. Like it's all right there. Shadow of the Colossus was one, but then one he specifically mentioned was God of War and that Mimir relationship. So Smart Otaku, I think I know you nailed it, because that came straight from Dan Trachtenberg's head, apparently. So yeah, thank you for writing in. Please continue to do so as always. We love getting your emails. Yeah, I think we can transition on into what we saw this week. So I'll just keep that through line going. And I will start, just so I can say, yes, I saw Predator Badlands, and like you guys, I absolutely loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I took Daniel to see it, went with some friends to the like proper IMAX screen, the real tall old school version one. We have one in Indianapolis. I wanted to see it there, and it was fun taking Daniel because he had not been there yet, so he'd never seen a screen in that like size and shape or whatever. So he was just pumped about that. Yeah, man, I mean, I've already been pretty, clear and open about my love for Trachtenberg and taking over this franchise. Like, I think he's someone who gets it, but I don't even think that is as important as his main quality, which is that he has good ideas for stories and he likes telling stories well. And he's even described it this way, where like these ideas that he's had were ideas that I think for the most part, for most of them, if not all of them, were kind of independently conceived, but then he realized that they fit the mold and they fit the universe pretty well with Predator. So it's just been this like very synergistic kind of everyone wins scenario where he has these cool ideas that have turned out to be awesome Predator movies. And I don't think it's a stretch to say he's reignited and in some ways potentially saved the franchise. This movie made more money than any Predator movie has made thus far. And people seem to really like it. I've seen some people do the whole like, this isn't my Predator bullshit, which I find very boring and tired as a take, because yeah, no fucking shit, it's not your Predator. That's the whole goddamn point of the movie is that he's not like the other Predators, and he's a runt and he's an outcast and he's deemed at the beginning of the movie to be an embarrassment on his tribe. His dad tells his brother to kill him. Like, that is the literal fucking impetus of the entire story and his arc. So when I've seen people be like, oh, this Predator learned friendship along the way, that's the most important prey of all. I've seen so many fucking dumb jokes. I'm amped up on coffee right now, so I'm ready to talk shit. That just shut the fuck up. We have 17 of those goddamn Predator movies where it's the same thing. And I love the Predator movies. I like all of, even the shitty ones. I find things to enjoy in them, but they're always the same. It's a nameless Predator that shows up. He's a badass. He eventually gets killed by whatever human protagonist we have. The end. It's that story over and over and over and over and over again. So having one that challenges some of that stuff, I think I have PTSD from The Last Jedi, because it hits me the same way that stuff did, where people are like, that's not my Luke. And it's like, yeah, no fucking shit. It's not supposed to be. Like, how do you not? It's okay if you don't like it, but to say that they got it wrong because they did something different, or it's just, I don't know, real boring take to me. But negativity aside, yeah, I'm with you guys on everything that you said last week. Definitely want to hear from both of you more. about it, whatever you want to throw out there that we were kind of holding back from last week. But there genuinely was really nothing about it that I didn't like. I thought all the choices were spot on. I liked the culture that they added in for the Predator stuff. I loved all of the stuff. Like, man, Austin was there. He and I were in particular geeking out about it afterwards with the Alien Universe stuff, where it was like, man, what a cool fucking idea to have the synths and Weyland-Yutani and all that shit be part of the movie, and not a single xenomorph in sight. Like, we can do story. It's kind of like, again, not to make another Star Wars comparison, but it's kind of like when I get excited when they do a Star Wars storyline that doesn't have a fucking lightsaber in it. I love the Jedi. I love lightsabers, all that shit. But it's a huge universe. It doesn't always have to have a fucking Jedi in it. And in this case, that's what was so exciting to me, was like, oh, we get to see this aspect more of the sense, like this backdrop. And then on top of that, just in general, like, I turned to Austin maybe 20 minutes into the movie and whispered to him, I was like, they are not fucking around with this is a sci-fi movie, like, through and through, no apologies, like, just in a way that's still accessible, I think, to general public. I mean, if you absolutely hate sci-fi and creature feature movies, all that kind of, you might not like it. That makes sense. But it's just sci-fi as fuck, dude. Like the vistas and just everything about it, the technology. Like, I was so into it. I thought it was so much fun. It is really funny. All that stuff worked for me. I can see for sure, like, people being not as hot on aspects of it because it is a departure. A smart Kotaku's, take, I think, was very reasonable and and rational in that regard. I don't want to make it sound like I was shitting on his take at all. But just so much fun. Very violent. Like, that was one thing we talked about, I think, on one of the past episodes, that, some people were kind of grumbling about that, like, oh, it should be rated R. And you watch this movie and it's like, I mean, no, not really. There's no blood in it. So tons of synth milk and tons of animal goop. But there were multiple times throughout the movie that I laughed out loud in shock at just how violent something was. There's one part where Thea, where she, small spoiler, she has her legs back and she stomps on a synth's head. I was just like, holy shit. Like, it didn't feel watered down at all to me. And just like Prey, just like Predator Killer of Killers, I walked away from it being excited about whatever happens next. Like, he's not just to see what he does, but also to see if and when they connect some threads. If they don't connect any threads, I'll be fine. Like, each movie stands, I think, very well on its own. But there is definitely some exciting possibilities that they've set up that they could continue on with between the three movies thus far. And yeah, I might go see it again today. Like, it was, especially after last night, which I'll get into that in a second. I watched the world's most underwhelming double feature. So I kind of want to go back to the movie theater today and watch something I know I'll enjoy. So yeah, anyway, great movie. Andi, it's your movie of the year, so I'll throw the ball to you first if you did have anything else you wanted to add about it.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you could say, well, Andi, you haven't seen that many movies at the theater this year. How much does it really mean calling it my movie of the year? But it is, yeah. It legitimately was the most fun I had at the cinema for a very, very long time. And I think I mentioned that last week as well, that my wife Bianca only went because I wanted to go. She didn't really have any intention of necessarily seeing the movie, and she had a great time with the movie as well. So it worked for both of us. And I didn't really know what to expect. Again, I think I said that last week. I only went because I'm currently addicted to monster movies, and this was a new monster movie coming out. Not having a very strong relation to the Predator franchise. I like the movies. I have not seen them a lot. There's one that I haven't seen at all. It was the Shane Black movie I still haven't seen. And then I was sitting in that theater and I had just a great time beginning to end. I watched a lot of Dan Trachtenberg interviews this week, or since having seen the movie for the past 1.5 weeks. And hearing him talk about his approach to the movie and thinking about visuals, thinking about silhouettes and all these things. And that's something that gets me excited. You remember Jordan Vogt Robert
That's
Jordan,
what I was getting ready to bring
Jordan
up.
Vogt
Yeah, it
Roberts,
reminds me
something
of
like
him.
that has just a visual idea and goes from there, but also knows how to tell a
Mhm.
story and how to bring everything together. And of course, working with a fantastic team. I love
Yeah.
the soundtrack of this movie. The effects were great, and the ideas, and then me coming into the movie with hoping for a great creature feature, and then there's all these great creature designs in there, and towards the end you even get a kaiju versus a mecha fight.
Yeah.
Who expected that in this movie? And I was just
and
giddy.
the mech is being driven by essentially a smaller mech, a robot in a mech.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed the humor. Again, I don't have a preconceived notion of what a Predator movie should be. It doesn't need to be R-rated. I don't care what the movie is rated. I'm of age. I can see any movie. I don't look into the ratings before I go
Sure.
see a movie. And I really enjoyed the humor. I enjoyed the relationships between these odd characters, all of them freaks in a way. I mean, and all us freaks have is each other. That's what this movie is also kind of about. And it's just a fun, entertaining action movie. And as Trachtenberg says, and as that I sent you guys this screenshot from BJ Colangelo's article that she wrote for Fangoria, and in this segment she talks about this. This is the kind of movie that we saw as younger people when we weren't able to see. Trachtenberg says this in an interview that his parents didn't allow him to see R-rated movies for a very long time, and he was always sitting there. Okay, cool that you're making all these movies that I want to see, but I'm not allowed to see these movies. Can't you make them a little more tame so that I can see them? You give me the toys for Rambo, but I'm not allowed to see Rambo. And this is that kind of movie for people that are not necessarily 16, 17, 18, 19 years old, but still can have a great time with a violent movie, but not people dying in the movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, the movie had me really, really excited, and I definitely want to see it again.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. Dave, did you have any other thoughts too?
One or two. I think you guys have covered a lot of what I would have said, and a lot of things that I wouldn't have had the smarts to have even contemplated saying. But no, it's just I'm very much aware that I'm the, oh shit, this was cool, and I can't tell you why, but it was fucking cool. Guy, and you guys actually have more coherent thoughts on those things. But I think some of the things that I did really enjoy was how Trachtenberg has managed to create a story here that both meshes understandably perfectly with the other two things that he's done in the Predator universe recently. More the animated film, Killer of Killers, because I feel the end of this movie very much leans into the idea of ragtag group of survivors running from the Yautja community, kind of maybe coming together. We've got two disparate groups at the moment, and there's a possibility that at some point they may cross paths, and I'm excited by that concept. But also the fact that at one point in this movie, Gek, did I just say his name right? Dek, sorry.
Dek.
Yeah.
Gek, you named him after
Gex is a lizard from PlayStation.
The lizard, video game lizard, yeah.
So Dek very much takes on the Arnold Schwarzenegger role in the first Predator movie, where he hasn't got any weapons, so he has to make his own.
Oh, man, that part. Oh,
and
yeah.
just the fact that a lot of those weapons kind of approximated what Predator weaponry looks like anyway. Like, he's got that kind of eel that sits on his shoulder that's basically like the triple dot sniper rifle.
The cannon.
Yeah. And he's like, all the way through the movie, we're seeing these different flora and fauna of planet Genna, which I'll come back to, but I fucking love that planet.
And that was another thing I saw Trachtenberg talk about specifically, got from video games, which was like, you see it a lot in Metroidvania games, where you start, Castlevania 2, where you start with all your gear, and then you lose it at the beginning right away.
Yeah. I was
which is what happens to him.
Kind of bummed that the bow and arrow just disappeared, because as a once keen archer, I always enjoy watching. I mean, whenever I play Skyrim, I basically end up doing the same thing and becoming a stealth archer. So, like Tomb Raider was like my favorite game for a very long time because it lent heavily on the archery mechanics.
Oh yeah, those new ones.
Yeah. So I was fucking bummed when he lost his bow and arrow, because I was like, shit, I thought we were going to get a really
so
cool William
too.
Tellway and
It had the bow, the string was like a laser essentially. From what I remember, like as soon as he pulled it out, I was like, God damn, I can't wait for him to use this bow. And you see him get to use it, but like once or twice.
It reminded me a
not
lot,
that much.
And this is something that I'm going to get the reference to, and maybe one or two others will, but I don't think either of you guys will necessarily. So in the anime and manga Bleach, there's a subsect of human magic users who basically can create energy bows and use them to kill hollows, which are like these demons that raise up from souls that have been on the earth for too long and have abandoned all hope. And it kind of had that feel about it, where it was like, oh, it's an energy bow and this is going to be fucking devastating. And then again, he lost it immediately, and I was like, bummer. But like the fact that throughout the movie we're experiencing this planet of Genna with Deck and with Elle Fanning's character and Thea, and we're experiencing like the spitting eels, and like when he meets Thea for the first time, it's in a field full of these exploding plants, which he then uses later on to blow up the surroundings of the encampment. So the whole way through, we're learning about the world and what these plants and flora and fauna are and what they can do. And then when he straps up and he's like, right, it's hunting time, which, it is not me attempting to create a morbing time parody for this movie. It makes perfect sense. It doesn't need to be explained at all. You know what all of these things are going to do, but it never occurred to me that he could have one of those eels sitting on his shoulder spitting at people. And the fact that he trained that motherfucker so quickly.
Also, it's strangely, like, I don't want to say strangely because it's done well, but just surprisingly emotional beat for that little eel character. I won't spoil it, but there's a moment where you're just like, God damn, like even with this little creature, they added in some stuff here that they didn't have to necessarily go that hard with.
Yeah, they really did.
Very cool.
And like one of the things that kind of stuck out to me was when he's sitting at a riverside and he picks up, I think it's like a bug or something, and he's looking at it and it starts puffing up. And then he just he throws it away and it blows up. And he gives
like a grenade.
And he gives this little kind of shrug and then like, like he's impressed. Like, yeah, good for you, little bug. You killed yourself, but that's not a bad way to go.
And this was something that I think a lot of people, not a lot of people, but those same shitheads that I've been criticizing were talking about. But I legitimately loved was the dynamic between him and Thea, and how at first she's manipulating him, not in a mean way, but in a way where it's like, no, I'm a tool. You just need a tool. Use me as a tool kind of thing to get what she needed. But then also that whole arc of challenging his beliefs, like stuff that's so deep rooted in him that comes from a place of ignorance. And he also had that seed planted from his brother. Like that whole opening sequence before he gets to the planet, I loved. That's like really well done. There's so much storytelling just with him and his brother and their dad in the span of like 5-10 minutes. It's not that long. And having that then be the seed from which his entire character arc grows throughout the movie. And it doesn't happen quickly. It doesn't happen like it. To me, it felt very organic. Like there's a one little moment that I loved that Austin pointed it out afterward too, where he's first fighting the Callus, and there's a funny moment where she just got her legs back and then they get torn off again. And she's reaching up for help from him, and he runs by and picks up the gun instead of grabbing her. Like just little things like that don't even have script stuff. It's just visual storytelling, character moments. Like the movie is full of stuff like that works, I thought, so well. It sounds like you guys agree too, but it's the whole like that's why I think in particular it frustrates me so much when people are like, this isn't my Predator. It's like, yeah, no fucking shit. It's not supposed to be.
It's not. But I'm going to call bullshit on that straight away because, and admittedly, this isn't a very popular Predator movie, but the first of the AVP movies, we get a very similar.
I brought that
relationship.
up after the movie.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we get a very similar relationship there. One of the comic books, I think, follows a very similar path where
totally. Yeah, if you go into the comics,
where a Predator and a human team up, and I think that's where they got the idea for AVP. Because I definitely read that comic book before AVP came out, so I'm guessing that was the way around it went. Like, it's not unheard of for a Predator to actually kind of team up with someone else.
And in the past, it's always kind of framed as like the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Like, we have to. Yeah. We're not going to have a relationship, but I'll work with you for this, common goal or whatever. Which is cool. But yeah, like you said, it's not a complete unknown quantity. It is if you've only seen the movies. I'll give people that for sure.
But also, like, as the Oucher and the kind of the history, the natural history of the Oucher has expanded through comic books and things like that. It's kind of been established that there are many different tribes, and I don't think it's unusual to think, or out of place to think, that although Deck's tribe might very well be a case of, no, you're in on your own, you should not team with anyone else, you should not take help from anyone else. I would imagine that there are other tribes out there that have different codes of honor where it comes to that kind of thing. And so, yeah, your Predator might not be this Predator, but that doesn't mean that this Predator can't exist, because look at how many different societies we have on Earth, and how many different societies there are in sci-fi in general. And I mean, even if you take something like Star Trek, like, they literally, two of the most famous alien races which share a heritage, the Vulcans and the Romulans.
Klingons, Romulans.
They come from the same people, but they split in two at one point because they had very different ideas of what they should do going forward. One was very much the case of, we need to follow a logical existence, and the other ones were, we can't abandon our feelings and our illogical side, our lizard brains, so to speak. So, it's not. I don't think it's out of order to think, oh, maybe the Oucher have a similar kind of splitting of the ways where it comes to different tribes and different species. Very much enjoyed the fact that we got to see Oucher Prime. I think that might be the first time we've officially seen it and had it named for us. I don't know if in Killer of Killers we might have been on Oucher Prime.
That was the only. I couldn't remember either. I had the exact same thought after the movie. I was like, is that the first time, or is it at the end of, not to spoil?
I kind of like the fact that we don't know for sure. They might establish that down the line, and maybe that's why they didn't name it in Killer of Killers, because it would be more likely that they come across each other if they're on the same planet. But that's just my pet theory, because everyone knows I love a shared universe. And of course, this is a shared universe, but I like stories crossing over and cross-pollination, all that shit. But yeah, I thought it was excellent. Special shout out to, and I'm going to butcher his name, but I'm going to fucking try, damn it. Demetrius Schuster Koloa Matangi, who plays Deck. I saw a clip of him and Elle Fanning. I think it was a TikTok. I'm not on TikTok, so it would have been something that found its way onto YouTube. I think it starts with Elle Fanning singing something, and there's wind going through her hair, and the camera pans round, and then you see Demetrius.
I think you sent this to us.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
I think you did. Yeah, Andi did.
I sent
Andy
it.
did.
And then a little bit later, I found a similar video. So it seems like a thing.
It's a trend,
It's a Fawn on Blonde's song, and it seems like people are doing that kind of video. But the first that I saw was with Elle Fanning, and at that point, I sent it to you, and then later on I found another one with other people. So
I saw a Jay and Silent Bob one last night.
Oh, nice! And I'm going to have to find that. But I was just so impressed with, because at the time of watching the film, I was like, "This is really good CG for Deck." Like, you could tell that it was a physical actor, and they layered a lot of CG on top of him. But I didn't realize just how much of it was prosthetics and like real work. And then when you see it in a TikTok or whatever it is like that, where they've not applied any of that CG, god damn, it looks so good. Like the creature design, the makeup, everything, just so good. And then on top of that, go on.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. I think I was interrupting you. The just to add on to your point, in the movie, multiple times throughout, I was just like, damn, they spent the time that they needed to make, because there are multiple moments of just nonverbal acting that's just through his face, and it always came through. You can always tell what he's feeling, what he's thinking, like, or at least, broad sort of idea of what's happening. And it shockingly looks so good.
Yeah. So
I also wanted to say really quick too, because I keep saying Trachtenberg, which he is obviously a massive part of it. He directed it, did the story, but Patrick Asen is the person credited for the screenplay, and I think also the screenplay on Prey and on Killer of Killers. I could be wrong. I didn't look up every single one of them, but he's been co-doing the stories and then doing the screenplays. So obviously that dude deserves a lot of credit for the stuff that a lot of the things we've been talking about here.
Yeah,
as well. I feel bad because he's probably, there have been other people. It's happened with Del Toro a lot too. Del Toro, like his past, not Frankenstein, but like the past 3 movies at least before that, he's had co-writers on them. And the other day I was like, I need to go back and look at these, because like when you have an auteur kind of situation, those people often get left in the dust when they had, huge contributions to the movie, to the script, whatever else. Anyway, just want to throw that out there.
No, for sure.
There's one more thing that I want to mention that I'm surprised, especially David hasn't mentioned yet, because there were 2 moments in the movie that caught me by surprise and I so much enjoyed, and it was the title cards in the beginning.
Oh,
yeah, that was good.
And the end.
Yeah.
2 great moments just with title cards, and because the first one comes late into the movie after that whole scene that you already talked about with him and his brother and his father, and then we get the proper title card. At that point, you've already forgotten that there was no title card, and then in the end,
I believe,
and then this after title end card stinger, fantastic.
I believe my exact quote to Austin, whispered in the theater, so that Daniel couldn't hear me on the other side of the seat. I whispered into Austin's ear, "Nothing gets me harder than fine print on a title card." when you have the fine print at the bottom, the MCM X whatever copyright, all that shit, like old school, like, oh, that was one of the, I remember like the short films I would make in college and the production whatever shit at Ball State. I would always do that on all of my movies, like add in all the little fine, like I love the look of that. And amazing title card.
Is it a mad thing for me to say that felt very grindhousey?
No, I don't think so.
Because I've only seen it in those kind of movies normally.
Yeah, I think it was super common back in the day, like for the most part in all movies, it feels like, at least. But then I think probably because of the movie Grindhouse and that resurgence, like that brought it back a little bit into. Because it does have, when they do it in films now, it does have that sort of, like, now it feels very throwback and retro. Like, it has this, like, cool aesthetic to it. But I think it was pretty commonplace back in the day. I don't know for sure. This is just based off of, my own experience or memory. But I'll have to look into that. I'm sure there's a blog somewhere that I'll spend the next 20 minutes reading after just about the history of fine print on title cards. That's my shit right there. Okay, cool. So yeah, high recommendation from all 3 of us, and from a Smart Kotaku as well. Smart Otaku, I called him Kotaku because of the website. A Smart Otaku as well. Go see it. And yeah, I think, like, I took my son to see it. He's 9, so no one. I mean, it's PG-13 here in America. Like, it's, there's some adjustment. It's still pretty brutal. He plays video games that are more violent. I wasn't necessarily worried about that, but then I was thinking about it after the movie and was like, I was 9 years old when my dad showed me. I've told this story on the podcast before, but we had just moved to Brazil, and then my mom and sisters, maybe 6 months in, close to a year in, they got like a free trip back to visit. My mom was super homesick, and so she took my sisters, and they went back to Wisconsin to visit with her parents, my grandparents, and my dad and I just had the apartment to ourselves for a week, and he showed me every R-rated movie I wanted to see. So I literally saw all 4 Alien movies that week, both Predators. Blade had just come out, so I saw Blade. Saving Private Ryan, that one was too hardcore for a 9-year-old. I was begging him to let me see Silence of the Lambs because that was the one he said was the scariest movie he'd ever seen. He finally let me watch that. That fucked me up. So I'm thinking about all these movies I saw at 9. I was like, Daniel's fine watching Predator Badlands in comparison. But he did then ask, like, what can I watch another Predator movie? And I was like, shit, I don't know now. Like, AVP probably? Like, it I think would probably for a 9-year-old scratch. I mean, it's not as good, obviously.
The cinematography on that movie is so dark that he won't see
not
anything
that one.
Anyway.
Not that one. Not Requiem, the first one. The one we were talking about earlier where the human and the Predator team up.
I feel like the first one was pretty dark as well, but
well,
maybe only the home video version. I saw it in cinemas, it was okay.
What Story Anderson, I believe, was responsible for that one. So, it's not the best movie.
What a nickname.
I thought about showing him the first one. I said that in the car. I was like, I don't know. I bet he could watch the original one. And Austin was like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, I think so. Like, it's definitely more violent than this, but he watched Killer of Killers, and like violence doesn't really throw him to, like, that I've ever known. I don't let him play like games like Last of Us or stuff that's going to have more visceral sort of violence, but if it's just kind of gore and animated blood, whatever. And Austin was like, what about language? And I was like, yeah, that's fine. I don't care. Like, he hears the F word in movies, and Austin was like, what about the other F word? And I was like, fuck, I forgot about that. So maybe, yeah, Jesse Ventura says some shit that maybe I don't want to expose Daniel to quite yet.
To be fair, he's always done that. Like, every movie he's ever fucking been in seems to be...
And probably real life, too, I'm guessing.
Well, he's a governor, so he has to be a bit more careful in real life. Or was a governor, sorry.
So, we'll see. Probably no original OG Predator movies in his future yet, but maybe I'll show him AVP. That was one, when I finally did get around to watching it in college, I remember thinking, like, this is nowhere near as bad as people say. Like, it's obviously not the quality of the original Aliens or the original Predator, but... and there I meant plural on aliens, alien and aliens. But it's fun. It's goofy. I mean, it's a bunch of fucking people in a pyramid fighting each other. Like, there's not a whole lot to it, but the weapons and action and everything I remember being fun. So
yeah, I enjoyed watching it when I think me and my friend Ryan went to watch it in the cinema. I mean, obviously it was years ago at this point, and yeah, we came out and we were like, oh man, that was fun. We weren't talking about the quality of the cinematography or like the plot points or anything like that. It was just like, we knew what we were going to watch. We were going to watch a movie where a predator kills a bunch of people, and then the aliens will get involved. And it did what it promised. So
I could be wrong here. I don't remember in Romulus, although I'm fairly sure there's not one. But I think it's also the only other time you see a queen. Like the team up at the end is against an alien queen, which I think the only other time you see one is in Aliens, right? I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's only those two movies. So
yeah, possibly, yeah.
I'll have to look it up. Because I remember it's massive. Like, it breaks out. They're in like the snow and they fight it, and it's a good like 4 times the height of the Predator. But anyway, we'll see. Maybe I'll report back next week on how Alien versus Predator went. All right, the other stuff I watched this week really quickly. So yeah, I mentioned last night I went to the movie theater, so I have the Regal Unlimited bullshit where you can see as many movies as you want, no limits, whatever, for a monthly fee, and I more than save money on that with the amount of movies I go to see for the most part, because all you have to do is essentially see more than 2 a month, and it pays for itself, and you're saving money already. So. Sean's got a pass too. We were like, let's go see. I wanted to see 3 different movies that were in theaters right now. The first one was Die My Love, which is the new Lynn Ramsey movie. I've seen a couple of her movies and liked those quite a bit, so I was interested in this one. The Running Man by...
Sorry, cutting across.
No, you're good.
I saw the trailer when we went to watch Begonia. Was it Begonia or was it? No, it was AVP, not AVP. Jesus Christ, Predator Badlands. How could I badmouth Badlands like that? And yeah, it looks really interesting. Like, there's enough there that I was interested to see it without having anything really ruined for me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And like I had seen, so yeah, I'll just jump into that one. The other movie, just so I finished the sentence, was the other 2 movies I wanted to see were The Running Man, new Edgar Wright, obviously, and then Keeper, new Osgood Perkins. And so yeah, so I'll jump right into Die My Love. So we watched that one first. It had the It seemed like the best of the three, most well received. So I was like, this is probably the least of a coin toss, least of a dice roll, a die roll, whatever. So let's start with that one. And it was my least favorite Lynn Ramsey movie I've seen, but it's good. It's well made. It's not bad by any stretch. It's the kind of artsy that for a lot of people is going to be an immediate non-starter. The movie's in 4:3, so that should let you know right away what kind of movie you're getting into, which I didn't know starting off. And it didn't bother me at all. Like, I don't care about that stuff. I think that aspect ratio stuff's interesting when they kind of toy with that or do different things within a movie for it. Right away, to me, my interpretation at least was this is a movie about a woman who is suffering from postpartum depression, and the confinements of her life, of this house that they move into, isolation, loneliness, lack of support system, all that shit. Like 4:3 right away. I mean, I'm not somebody who digs deep with metaphors, but right away I was like, okay, I can see why this is not in widescreen. Like you are wanting everything to feel a little bit more cramped and a little bit more boxed in. And so, yeah, that made sense to me. The rest of the movie, it's weird. I think I liked it less than it seems like most people I follow on Letterboxd liked it. It's a lot of 4 stars and higher. Didn't land there for me. But it was well made and well done. Jennifer Lawrence is great in it. I think that it's tough. It's a movie that is about a very real thing, and something that I don't know the statistics. I know Daniel's mom, she had postpartum very badly afterward. I've never experienced it. I saw it through that lens of trying to be there for her and help her in whatever ways I could, and then also seeing the ways that it was affecting her perception or her views of herself, everything else. But fortunately, in that situation and a lot of other situations, like there were support systems in place between my family, her family, me, obviously, and then also, being able to go talk to someone, therapy, medication, all these different avenues and paths that you have, that people have available to them, hopefully, ideally, in most, if not all situations. In this movie, it's sad because she doesn't have that. It seems like, I'm not without spoiling anything, my interpretation was she's someone who, before the baby, because they show a little bit of before they have the baby and their connection and their sex life and everything else, and you see kind of the contrast between the two. Also with both of these movies, very horror adjacent, not horror, but like this is a artsy psychological kind of drama. There's a lot of shit in it that like is very tense and unnerving and uncomfortable and scary at times. So through that lens, like that stylistic type of approach, the storytelling being as visual, and then also not, it's not a script that's going to hold your hand and explain like, hey, when women suffer from postpartum depression, these are the things that can happen. Like you either have to come in knowing a little bit of how it works or how it can work rather, or, you have to pay attention because it's not going to hold your hand. Blending then some of the more surrealist aspects, to me at least, made it kind of a odd watch in that you're getting something somewhere between a real life thing that tons of people struggle with and deal with, mixed with a art house kind of movie. And so at times it felt unsatisfying, but then it was like, is that by design? Like that might be a very intentional move. Like I've seen We Need to Talk About Kevin and You Were Never Really Here or Never Really There, whatever it's called, the Joaquin Phoenix one. Those are the only other 2 Lynn Ramsey movies I've seen. I really liked both of them. Both of them had very similar traits to them in that sense of like, this isn't a movie to entertain you or to make you feel at ease. It's by design very uncomfortable and, not meant to be, like a narratively, like, let's put a bow on it and explain everything, explain every plot line and character motive or whatever else. So anyway, when it was done, I was like, I liked that. I don't know that I'll watch it again. It was well made. Jennifer Lawrence is great in it. She's able to go to a lot of like awesome, brave, sort of very actory places that are fun to watch. I mean, fun in quotes because it's a depressing movie, but But then when that was done, I was like, do you have to go to Sean, my friend Sean? I was like, do you have to go home? Because I kind of want to watch another movie now, like to kind of palate cleanse in some ways that one. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. So pulled out the app, got us tickets for The Running Man through our unlimited thing. And then we just literally walked across the hallway into another theater right as The Running Man was getting ready to start. Man, so my review for this one on Letterboxd was aggressively okay. Like it's not bad. It's not good. I didn't think, but it's not. It is like right down the middle. I think if it weren't an Edgar Wright movie, I think I probably would have been a little bit more or a little less critical of it. But just with a bullet, my least favorite Edgar Wright movie, like no contest. I haven't seen the Sparks documentary. I hear it's great. I don't expect that to be my least favorite. And I still haven't seen Last Night in Soho, which I've seen. That was like the last episode I was going to be on before I took that like year-long break. So I think I watched maybe the first third of it years ago now. And what I saw of it, I really liked. And I believe from what I remember, you guys liked it. Yeah?
Yeah. I'll let Andy speak, and then I'll say something else about it.
I didn't want to say too much about it, but I really liked it. I still think about it a lot.
Okay,
and
cool.
I still want you to see it. It's still because we talked about that we might do another episode on it, just that you can be on the episode and that you have a reason to watch the movie, and it's still on my list that I keep as a possible topic.
Oh, perfect. Okay, yeah. Go ahead, Dave.
It features quite heavily in a YouTube essay from Infinite Snow Productions, who is an essayist that I've been following for a while. She's not put many things out, but when she does put something out, it's really good quality. She started with a couple of essays on Miyazaki and Lupin III, and then kind of moved out into other things. This might give you an idea of her feelings on it. The title of the essay was Man Horror Bad. I think I've got that the right way around. And now, a note from our editor. Hello everyone, this is Dave from the future doing his editorial duties and letting you know that I was in fact wrong. The name of the video essay is actually Man Bad Horror. Now back to the show. She had some thoughts on it which I had never considered from the female perspective, which did make me re-examine it. I still enjoy it a lot, but I can kind of see it through a different lens as well now, which, it would be interesting to revisit it at some time. But I have
a feeling based off this conversation, we'll probably be doing it next week, but we can figure that out after the recording. Because I do really want to finish it. I think it was also one, I mean, that was, when I took that year off, it was because my marriage was ending. And so I was in a horribly dark place. And so I think for a long time I didn't associate it with the divorce necessarily, but just that time period that like any time in the past, 3-4 years that I've gone back to it, I've been like, I don't know. I haven't felt that way recently. And in fact, after watching Running Man last night, I was like, I should finally watch all of the Soho one because I liked what I saw of it. Anyway, I don't expect it to be my least favorite Edgar Wright movie because this one was just very, I don't know, man. There was just none of the... It was, again, I cannot, like, aggressively fine, aggressively okay is, like, how I would describe all of it. The Michael Cera scene I liked probably the most out of the entire movie. You see a little bit of that in the trailer. It's got a good cast. Glenn Powell's good. Like, I'm not a Glenn Powell hater. I'm also not, like, all over him. He's a handsome dude. He's a good actor. I haven't seen him in a ton of stuff. I haven't seen the ones that people really like and point to or whatever. But I've seen him in smaller roles and other things, and I think he does a good job in the film. The world is cool. It's also not anything new, really, or anything, not that it has to be completely original, but in good and bad ways, it reminded me of movies like Demolition Man, which is a movie I fucking love from my childhood, which not a great movie. But it reminded me of like Judge Dredd, Demolition Man, like those 90s era dystopian, post-apocalyptic kind of like set design. The fucking Mario Brothers movie is another one that had that sort of design. I haven't read the original novel and I haven't seen the Schwarzenegger film. So for me, it was a completely brand new. I've seen scenes from the Schwarzenegger movie. I know what the book's about. I know how the book ends and how the original one differed. Like, I know a lot of the pop culture shit around the movie. So enough to kind of know what was going to happen. Even stuff like video games. Like, I remember playing Manhunt in high school, the Rockstar game, and knowing like, okay, this had a big, influence. Not exactly the same, but Running Man had a big influence on it. So yeah, it's not horrible. I would say people should check it out if they're interested in it. There was enough there to keep me watching. I wasn't like, I would never get on my phone in the theater, but I wasn't. If I were watching it at home, I probably wouldn't have checked my phone to put it. But it's also not like a ringing endorsement of the movie. There's just so much, so many better things he's done in other movies. The contrast was especially crazy to me having just watched Scott Pilgrim recently. And Scott Pilgrim has, it's not a perfect movie, but there's just the visual flair and style and everything about that film, like on so many levels. And then you watch this and it's just like, it feels so phoned in. Like, it feels very much like a studio movie. It doesn't really feel in good and bad ways, but yeah, I don't know. It was just a massive shrug from me. It was okay. I chuckled a couple times at a few different things. But I've seen a lot of people be critical of the ending. I see why. It's just, yeah, it's fine. It's okay. So it was weird. I spent approximately 4 hours in the movie theater yesterday. Driving home was just kind of like, I don't feel like I wasted my time, but I also feel like I probably could have done something better with my time. Like, it wasn't the worst time at the movies ever, but yeah, anyway, the world's most underwhelming double feature is what I think I said earlier, and that's kind of how it all landed for me. So I've seen other people like it more than me on Letterboxd. People I follow, I've seen other people like it less than me. I think I'm probably skewing a little bit under, but not wildly so. So yeah, I think it'll be, I don't know. I wondered later, like, maybe this will be one that 20 years from now, it'll be one of the ones where people are like, I know it's not, anyone's favorite, but man, I love The Running Man. I love How Edgar Wright did. Like, maybe it'll be one of those that with time and distance, like, gains a different appreciation. It has that quality to me, like that potential. But yeah, for me at least, it was one I was like, I kind of like Die My Love, where I was like, I'll probably never watch that again. But anyway, if nothing else, makes me want to watch the two I haven't seen, Sparks and Soho. So, and that is it for me this week. Dave, let me throw it to you next. What'd you get into on the spooky adjacent line?
Not a huge amount that I can talk about immediately, because a lot of it was to do with today's topic. But there was one thing that I watched that I've been meaning to watch for a long time, and then it wasn't available, and then I got a notification from Netflix. You know how they say, this is all leaving this week, so you'd better watch it now, unless you don't want to watch it at all, in which case, no harm, no foul. So I finally watched Snowpiercer from 2013.
What?
Yeah.
I thought you had seen that before. Dude,
No.
I was obsessed with that movie when it came out.
Yeah, everyone was. And then I was like, oh, I should watch that. And it went on the pile of shame, as most things do for me. And then when I finally had a free night where I wanted to watch it about 4 or 5 years ago, I went onto Netflix and all I could find was the TV series. And I was like, no, I really want to watch the film before I watch the TV show. So I basically just put it away and was like, okay, I guess I'll watch it down the line when it becomes available. And then Netflix just stealthily put it back on their service for like a year or so a bit later. And I didn't know until it was about to leave again. So sat down a couple of nights ago, watched Snowpiercer. And it's fucking brilliant. I really enjoyed this.
Hell yeah. Glad you liked it.
It has that kind of feeling of like the later of the Dredd movies. It's really, as the plot would kind of lend it to be, a very claustrophobic film. Kind of has aspects of like Old Boy and things like that thrown in for good measure. The violence is very visceral and real feeling. The moment that Tilda Swinton turned up, I was like, first of all, I was like, oh, I don't know who this actress is. And then she started talking in that kind of northern accent, which is a choice, Tilda. I approve of it very much. and I was immediately like, holy shit, I think that's Tilda Swinton. Because literally the only actor that I could remember being in this film was Chris Evans. I forgot that Jamie Bell was in it. I forgot that John Hurt was in it.
Yeah, Ed Harris has got a nice cast. Isn't Brie Larson in it too? Or wait, not Brie Larson. It's
Octavia Spencer.
Alison Pill.
Oh, Alison Pill. Yes, she is in it.
Not mixing up. She's Octavia Spencer and Alison Brie.
No, I
or Brie Larson.
The school teacher. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like there's a lot of actors in this that either I was just not aware because I'd not watched it before, and they just didn't kind of advertise them for whatever reasons, or I was just generally ignorant of their being in this project, and it's really, really good. So Bong Joon-ho, for those that aren't familiar with who directed it, most people will know him as being the director of Parasite, and before this, The Host. And one of the stars of the piece is Song Kang-ho, who most people will also know for being in Parasite. But he was in recent years talked about as being one of I think the New York Times named him one of the greatest actors of the 21st century. And I don't see any reason to disagree. Honestly, really good performance from him, and the whole story of him being kind of like a drug addict and getting these bits of like it's like a waste material that you can get high by like sniffing on. It's kind of like glue sniffing.
Yeah.
That whole storyline that came to a conclusion at the end was really cleverly done.
And I think arguably maybe. And it's not like I like this dude and I think he's a good actor across the board, but it's not like he's had a ton of opportunities to do a lot of depth. But great Chris Evans performance, in my opinion. Like I think he's great in this movie, and like he has versatility. I mean, he's in Scott Pilgrim. He's hilarious in that. There's such a difference between that and Captain America, but he was definitely Captain America for so long that I think it was I could see why he's tried to move away from that and do other stuff, because you see him in something like this and you're like, oh yeah, like I forget that you're not just Steve Rogers. Like you've got more in the tank.
It's James Bond, Doctor Who syndrome. It's being in such a famous role and being typecasted and being associated only with that role, and then you see him in something else and it's just like, holy shit, like this dude goes through it. Just really enjoyed it from beginning to end. Very dark, very pessimistic look at the future. The idea of kind of like spraying chemtrails into the environment to slow down global warming and it going the opposite way. Taking global warming very literally, which a lot of people make that mistake of being like, how can it be global warming? It's freezing this time of year. And it's like, yes, because that's... never mind. If I have to explain it to you, you're not going to understand, or you're not going to care.
Right.
But yeah, like the storyline of kind of like the fact that they've been on this train for like 17 years, and also like part of my brain was like, well, how can that work? Because there's no such thing as an intercontinental train line. And then they kind of when you get to the Alison Pill part of the film, it's like a exposition dump, but in a really entertaining way, where the kids are being taught about the history of the train and how it came to be, and by proxy, we're also learning all of these things because we're new to this version of Earth as well. It's got an environmental message, but it's a very... I wouldn't call it a subtle message, but I would call it a message that maybe doesn't get hammered home an awful lot until like you're at the very end of the film. I don't know. The beginning of the film does hammer it home as well, but for the most part, it's about people trying to survive a train full of maniacs with guns. And
really thematically, like a lot in common with Parasite, even though it's a sci-fi movie based off of French comic books set aboard a train in a freezing planet. There's a surprising amount of stuff.
There's a huge
similarities
involved.
Yeah.
And again, like Tilda Swinton's performance just absolutely ties everything together in the best possible way. Like the way that she comes down and like, even though she talks like this, you are at the tail of the train. We are the head. Now, head, you don't wear a shoe on your head, do you? Like, that whole thing was just hilarious, but also, like, very depressing, because having someone like her character explaining the class system when traditionally in the UK, if someone looked and talked the way that she did, you would not be at the top of the class system. You would be at the fucking bottom.
Right.
It's very. I wonder if if that was her input into the character, and she was like, "No, I want to play it like this because I've got my reasons." I would love to think that that's the case. I'm going to have to look into that to see whether she had any input on how she played the character. But yeah, just beginning to end, really good. The reveals through the movie of who's working with who and who knows what, and there's a couple of kids that kind of get taken at the beginning of the film, and then you find out what happened to them at the end. And the whole way through, you're thinking, "Oh, he's eaten them, isn't he?" And then it's just something that's probably even worse, if that's possible. Just kicks you in the balls. It's very, very good, and recommend
Also,
it
just
to anyone.
visually amazing, like each train car having different vibes and looks. I love the sequence where they open up that one car and it's filled with those dudes with swords and weapons and masks and stuff, and they have that huge fight. Like it's so cool.
And then the light cuts out, and they've all got the night vision goggles, so you're seeing everything through night vision. And you get this one image of Tilda Swinton, and it's like you're seeing her through night vision, even though you know for a fact nobody's looking at her. And she's got this look of glee on her face, like, "Oh, we're gonna kill some people today."
Yeah,
and just I could Chris Farley about this for fucking hours, so I'm going to stop. But other than that, anything else? We're closing in on the finale of Once Upon a Time, which is continuing to be just the maddest box of frogs show that I have ever seen in my entire life. Just when you think that they've run out of characters, they find someone else. The most recent episode, they had Rumpelstiltskin and Belle from Beauty and the Beast. There's a reason why they're together, trust me. I just haven't got the time to talk about it. And they put them into the montage from Up. And I was like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. Just because it's Disney that's involved in this, because it's ABC that made it, I think. So they had the Disney licenses. Everything became very Disney-centric after the first season. It was just like, yeah, okay, so just because you're able to do it doesn't mean you should. And then the more I'm watching it and the music is playing and I'm just like, you motherfuckers, okay, you won. You won. This was a great choice. Thank you. And now I want to watch Up. So that's what we're doing tonight. But yeah, that's pretty much it. There was a bunch of other stuff that I watched that I will be mentioning as we get into the main topic today. But for now, that's me. So, Andy, what did you get up to?
One thing, we watched a movie today. Recently, Bianca, my wife, she just grabbed a couple of movies from the library, more or less randomly. She just went through the horror section and was looking mostly for Asian movies and without really knowing much about them. So today we watched The Tag Along from 2015 from Taiwan. And it's not worth talking about much. It's not that good. It's about it's about ghosts taking people. So basically the mountain forests, the lore is that when you cut down a tree, all the trees are inhabited by souls. So when you cut down a tree, the mountain will claim a person to take that soul and plant it into the mountain again. And the narrative of the movie is very confused for a while, and then it doesn't really get better towards the end. There was one great moment that I really enjoyed, that we both really enjoyed, a great, very well-made jump scare where you see a woman in the forest, so the camera is focused on her, and in the background, out of focus, you see something, and then you see it moving, so your eye focuses there and you wait for the camera to focus there as well, and while you're looking into the background, there's something happening in the foreground, so something enters the frame from the right hand side in the foreground. So the misdirect of that movement in the background and then the jump scare happening in the foreground was very well made. But other than that, the movie is pretty forgettable. So the tag along from Taiwan, not a recommendation, sadly, and we'll keep it at that.
The tag along from Taiwan sounds like an old spy novel or something. Jean Le Carré.
Yeah, James Bond and the tag along from Taiwan.
All right, cool. Well, then let's pivot right into our film of the week, Frankenstein 2025, from I started to say our friend, someone that we love but don't know, Guillermo del Toro. Produced, written, and directed by him, based off of the 1818 novel by Mary Shelley. Got a cast here of Oscar Isaac, Jacob Elordi, Mia Goth, Christoph Waltz. Who else is in this? David Bradley's got a cool role, I thought. Atypical for him. Charles Dance is in it. Ralph Ineson, however you say his name, Galactus in one scene. And yeah, this was released first in theaters briefly. I don't know how it worked overseas. I know, Andi, you guys saw it in the theater. Here it was very random and would show up in certain theaters for a few days and then disappear from those and then pop up in other ones. It was kind of stupid how they did it. I'm sure that was a Netflix thing of them, not wanting to just do a standard release, but I did see it a couple of days before it then hit Netflix, and then it is now streaming as a Netflix original. What else here? It's fucking Frankenstein. I'll read the Wikipedia description. The film follows the life of egotistical scientist Victor Frankenstein, whose experiment in creating a new life results in dangerous consequences when his monstrous creation comes to life. This has been in the works for a long time. Del Toro is known for, Del Toro has his own Wikipedia article of like unrealized projects or ones he's worked on that you can go through and look at. They're all very interesting. He's always had a lot of plates that he's spinning at the same time, projects he's working on, projects that he's going to do. He is a co-script writer on at least 2 of the Hobbit movies, maybe all 3 of them. I can't remember now, because he was going to make those for a bit and then ended up not making them. Peter Jackson came back, all that jazz. And then, there was a At the Mountains of Madness movie that was gestating for years, probably decades, that never came together. And Frankenstein was another one that was set up. If you go to the production section of the Wikipedia article for this movie, you can start, back all the way in 2007 is where it first starts, quoting him talking about it and everything else. It was also kind of well known that he liked the Bernie Wrightson illustrations that Bernie Wrightson had done for an illustrated version of Frankenstein. Bernie Wrightson, of course, legendary comic book artist, since passed away, was worked on a ton of stuff. Swamp Thing probably being the most well-known or maybe most widely talked about. And he had done these amazing illustrations for just an illustrated. It wasn't sequential. It wasn't comic book stuff. It was just illustrations for a book, which thankfully, since I had tried to find that book in the past, it's always been kind of out of print or hard to find, super expensive. They did a reprint here recently to kind of tie in with the Netflix release. So I finally have a copy of that. So I've actually been kind of flipping through that and reading some here and there. I'd never read the original novel, so might be doing that here soon. But finally all came together. Even here more recently when things were starting to happen, Andrew Garfield was attached as the creature for a long time. He was going to be in it. I don't remember if it was scheduling or WGA stuff or something. Ended up not being able to do it. And that's when they brought in Jacob Elordi, who took over. And it's a pretty faithful, except for when it's not adaptation of the book, and which is not meant as a criticism. Just there definitely are deviations. It's not like a 1-to-1 thing, but very much in line with the original depiction of the creature of Frankenstein's monster. So if you're going into it expecting, Boris Karloff, Universal monsters, like my OG faves, not that kind of vibe, something more closer to like what we saw in Penny Dreadful, or some of those where the monster is much more eloquent and learns and grows and has existential crises throughout the movie. It's long. It's about 2.5 hours long. We have multiple sections and title cards and act breaks and all kinds of stuff throughout it. So it's a very sumptuous movie, let's say. And as always, let's kind of go around and say what our general thoughts were. Dave, I'll have you kick us off this week. What did you think overall of Frankenstein?
First of all, I have to say I'm shocked when you said it was 2.5 hours long. It didn't feel that long. Genuinely,
yeah, well paced.
It was so well paced. It just ran along so quickly, and before I knew it, it was over. I really enjoyed this quite a bit. I've seen a lot of at this point, a lot of the Frankenstein adaptations, from the James Whale adaptation 1931 through to the Kenneth Branagh adaptation, I think 94. Bride of Frankenstein is also one that Del Toro has mentioned as being an inspiration for him, although the Branagh one wasn't mentioned. But yeah, so I also remember reading the book, unusually for me, completely unprompted. When I was at school, I found a copy in the school library and read Frankenstein, and have not read it since then. So a lot of my recollections of what happens in the book are based on 30 plus year memories of a book that I read once and then kind of put down and never thought about again for years and years. But my gut instinct when watching the film was that, as you said, it felt very faithful to the original book, except for when it wasn't, and there are examples of where it isn't. Victor's brother is a lot older in this, whereas he's a child in the book. The monster and Victor never actually meet on the ship. Victor dies before the monster is able to come to him to exact his revenge, whereas in this one you get a very cathartic meeting at the end of the movie. There's lots of little changes, but overall, like, I came away from it thinking this is probably one of the, in spirit, most faithful adaptations of Frankenstein that I've seen, based on my very, very vague memories of what I read in the book. I think Kenneth Branagh's version probably pips it in terms of being as close to the book as possible, although that one still takes a lot of different avenues where it comes to adapting it. But it's an adaptation at the end of the day. I love the visual style of the film. The Jacob Elordi's monster, or creature, I should say, unbelievable. Like, I didn't know about the James Patterson thing, and I'm really glad. And this isn't shade at Patterson at all. But
wait,
I think,
who?
Pattinson.
Oh no, Robert Pattinson. But no, it was Andrew Garfield.
Garfield. What the fuck am I doing today, boys? Holy
That's why I was
shit.
like, James Patterson. Who the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah,
Andrew Garfield.
do you know what? Garfield and Pattinson, I get mixed up a lot, actually, because if you put them side by side, they kind of look similar.
You're mixing three people currently.
I'm not, because Elordi I'm keeping very separate.
No, because James Patterson is an author. Robert
is
Pattinson
okay,
is an actor.
Yeah, sorry,
But
everyone.
yeah, Pattinson and Garfield do have the, like, handsome, British, wiry, unruly, unkempt hair thing going on.
Eyebrows and hair, yeah. That's all I remember people's faces by, is eyebrows and hair. I can't help it. I have Garfield face blindness. It's
Eyebrows and Hair sounds like a British comedy series that went 5 seasons and is highly acclaimed.
It was actually a detective series in the 1970s.
Was it actually?
No.
Okay, I would have believed you.
I should have kept that going for longer. But no, like, all due respect to Andrew Garfield then. But I think that if you put anyone else in that makeup, you don't get as good as a performance. Genuinely, I think Elordi absolutely nails this. And his physical stature as well. He's a very tall guy. So he already has that kind of Frankensteinian, and I know I'm using a verb that shouldn't because Frankenstein is the doctor, but he has this very creature-esque ranginess about him, which in the books, as well as in this version, they do talk about how everything has to be larger because it makes the surgery easier. If you're working on hands and arms and legs and torsos that are 25% larger than the average human, you've got that much more room to work around and stuff things in and stitch up, you know. Also, and this is going to be the first of the things that I mentioned that I watched, and then I'll pass over. There was an Entertainment Weekly special, which I watched after seeing the film, and they had this whole thing. It was kind of like it takes a village to create a creature. The makeup designer talked about the inspirations for the creature design and how there were different tones of of flesh on the creature. How there was a kind of a pale ashen skin, which was more in line with the description from the book. There was like a greenish, almost more bluish kind of color, because that's traditionally that is what the creature, the Boris Karloff's creature, was colored as to show up in the shade of grey that he did in the movie. Like there's all different things like that, and he also said like that. Poppy, be quiet. I'm talking horror. Apologies. He also talked about the fact that he wanted to have the creature almost be multicolored, because there was almost this feeling of this kaleidoscope of different human parts that were all stitched together,
like a quilt or something.
Yeah, and his idea was that Frankenstein himself may have actually dyed some of the flesh different colors to aid him in putting the creature together. So it was almost like a painting by numbers kind of thing, which I thought was a really cool idea. And, you know, when you've got all of these other people that are feeding into this creative idea, and like the makeup artist comes along and he's talking about, and the creature designer is talking along about how, I want to do this and this because this makes sense to me. It all just feeds into this patchwork of a movie, which is just amazing looking. We'll talk about the costume and stuff later, but man, yeah, I really enjoyed it. Sorry, I've gone on too long here. Someone else talk.
No, you're good. Andi, let's start to you.
I will talk for a while as well, so don't you worry.
That's a relief.
But before I get into my thoughts, because Dave just brought up the thing that you always bring up when it's about Frankenstein, that the creature is not called Frankenstein, that it's the doctor that's Frankenstein. Yeah. And I finally learned where that confusion comes from. Maybe you are aware of that. I wasn't so far, because I watched several videos with Del Toro over the past couple of weeks as well. Mm-hmm. And in one, he talks about the James Whale movie, the original Universal Boris Karloff Frankenstein movie, and that movie was not an adaptation of the novel, but an adaptation of a play. And in that play, they actually called the creature Frankenstein. And that's where the confusion originated.
Do you know, it kind of makes sense, because the creature is the son of Victor Frankenstein. So technically he would have that last name. I kind of get that argument, but I never knew that. Thank you, Andy.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Funnily enough, the first two things that I have in my notes are things that you guys literally said. Well paced, didn't feel long.
Yeah.
So earlier this year, Robert Eggers released his Nosferatu, his remake of Nosferatu, and a colleague of mine was excited for that movie like for nothing else, because he's just a huge Robert Eggers fan. You might remember I talked about him. He was the one that let me borrow his copy of The Lighthouse. And I always said to him, well, he was so excited whenever a new trailer came out, and he talked about the production design and all that stuff, and he was so excited. And I said, well, to me, it just looks like another Dracula. And I know you are excited for that movie because you are a Robert Eggers fan. I'm not that much of a Robert Eggers fan. Not that I dislike him, I don't have that connection to him. So I am not excited for another version of Dracula by Robert Eggers, because it is by Robert Eggers. Now Del Toro makes his Frankenstein. The trailers come out, and I must say, I didn't really make me excited for the movie. So this is my moment this is Del Toro, because I'm a fan of Del Toro. So this is why I want to see the movie. Not because it's Frankenstein, but because it's Del Toro's Frankenstein. And I'm addicted to monster movies currently, so another reason, of course, to watch the movie. And then when the opportunity presented itself to see it at the cinema, I thought, well, cool, let's go see it at the cinema. I've seen, from a certain point on, I've seen every movie that Del Toro released at the cinema. So although this will come out on Netflix shortly after, let's go see it at the cinema and make it a day. And we went, and I sat there for 2.5 hours, and it was well paced and didn't feel long. I was never bored, but I must also say, to me, the movie did not feel particularly memorable. As Patrick Williams put it on Letterboxd, yep, that's Frankenstein. That's all he wrote on Letterboxd. And that's how the movie felt to me. I know Del Toro brought his moments into the movie, and he put even more of a focus than other adaptations on the father-son relationships, especially with the with Frankenstein's father, and then Frankenstein becoming the father, and all these elements. But those are there in other adaptations too. And afterwards, I said I haven't seen the Kenneth Branagh movie in a while, but that is the other like period correct adaptation that I'm thinking of. And afterwards, I felt like, was it so much different than the Branagh movie? And I'm sure it is if I would really watch the Branagh movie today. But I did not feel more excited after this one because it was Del Toro than with other Frankenstein adaptations. Will this be the movie that I will watch when I want to watch a Frankenstein movie? No, it will always be the James Whale movie. I don't think there will ever be another Frankenstein that will take that one's place, for me at least, for that one and Bride of the Universal movies. So I think it's, of course, very well made and has great production design. I loved Mia Goth's costumes. Those gowns were outstanding to me. Those were, that I must say, those gowns were a real highlight to me. So props to the costume department and the designers of those gowns. Those were really, really beautiful. But other than that, I think it's well made. It did nothing wrong. There were no mistakes in the movie. But it's not a movie that stayed with me for a long time, that I was afterwards excited to watch interviews and find making ofs. And then a few days later, I went and saw Predator Badlands. And after that movie, I came out and I turned to Bianca and said, who would have thought that within the span of a week, I would go to the cinema into two monster movies, and both are about the relationships, the fucked up relationships between fathers and sons, and Predator Badlands is the one that worked better for me.
And the other one was made by Guillermo del Toro too. Like, yeah.
So yeah, that's my take.
I just to it's not a clap back per se, but that's the thing that popped into my head. You mentioned about, hang on, I need to bring it up here. About the Kenneth Branagh one, and which one may have been more faithful or anything like that. I did actually watch a YouTube video from Classical JG, that's the channel name, which was called Comparing Del Toro and Branagh's Frankenstein movies, which one is more faithful to the book? And she goes through it pretty much bit by bit and talks about all of the changes that they each make and the periods that they're set in. It feels like a little bit of a nitpick, but she points out that Branagh's is set before the age of Shelley, and Guillermo del Toro's one is set after Shelley had died. She also points out that the costuming in del Toro's is not period correct at all. It's just more kind of like his flourishes and style, like what he likes to see in that kind of period costuming. But she does kind of go through the whole thing and in reference to the book, and she ends up coming out on the side of Kenneth Branagh's movie is a lot closer to the book than Del Toro's is, both in terms of the plotting, but also the spirit of the film itself. Whereas Branagh's is more of a literal interpretation of the themes of the movie. Del Toro tends to take it in a slightly different direction, where it becomes less about the monstrousness of man and more about the relationship of father and son, and whether or not Frankenstein can be redeemable. So I thought that was an interesting video that I watched, and I thought I would just bring it up there.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, that's really interesting because, as I said, I wasn't really talking about faithfulness to the book because I have not read the book, but that's exactly a comparison that I was interested in. So how much different from the Branagh movie is the Del Toro movie? Because to me, it didn't feel like I could have just watched the Kenneth Branagh movie and would have gotten a similar experience at least. Again, of course, Del Toro putting his focus on the father-son relationship more than others. But yeah, again, I'm done. David, you tell me.
I mean, my favorite Frankenstein adaptation by far is the Aaron Eckhart I, Frankenstein vehicle from 2013. Highly overlooked. I almost went with Victor Frankenstein for that joke, but I want to see that movie still. I've never watched it.
It's okay, but it's a Marvel Frankenstein movie wannabe kind of thing.
It looked like it's Sherlock Holmes, Guy Ritchie Sherlock Holmes Frankenstein movie. When it came out, at least the trailers looked that way. I've said this on the podcast before, and I'm going to say it again today. I'm kind of in between you guys in terms of where I landed after the movie, and this is completely subjective, arbitrary, whatever. I like rating movies on Letterboxd after I watch them, just kind of for fun and for my own whatever amusement. And it took me a while to rate it because I was torn between a 3.5 and a 4, and it was like I was leaning toward 3.5 in terms of my personal enjoyment, but also I was like, it's a 4 though in terms of how well made it is, which I feel like is kind of right in the battle Andi was talking about in terms of it's also like I was talking to Austin about this too. It's a Del Toro movie, like he's Mount Rushmore for me in terms of my favorite filmmakers. So a Del Toro movie is like almost on a different scale in terms of how I interact with it. Like even a lesser Del Toro movie for me is, multitudes of times more interesting than most other, kind of standard studio fare or whatever. So a lot to kind of parse through. My biggest worries going into it were that it was going to be a lot like Crimson Peak, which is my least favorite Del Toro movie, probably, because I knew that it had the gothic horror, gothic drama, whatever thing going on. And this for me worked much better than Crimson Peak did. I ended up giving it a 4 on Letterboxd. I think I kind of landed a place where it's like, well, I don't really have any like big criticisms of it. It was more just kind of like, this is somewhere in the middle for me of his filmography, but not because it's not good. It just, he's made some fucking classic, just bangers of cinema, like to mix some different terms from generations. Like he's made some fucking crazy good movies. So yeah, I was I thought of Nosferatu a bit. That was another one that I thought like, is this going to be like when I watched Nosferatu, which was like, yeah, this is really well made and it looks great. It's also fucking Dracula. Like it's Dracula again. We've seen it a million times. And I didn't have that that experience as much with this one. Again, I brought up Penny Dreadful in the intro, and that's probably the closest point of reference I had for this kind of more faithful adaptation of the creature in particular, and like his Austin and I to this day will quote, "I am maladroit, Miss Ives." Like that's the line he says at one point to I'm blanking on all their names.
Ava Green.
Yeah, Ava Green's character. Like that is him kind of in a nutshell throughout, and he's amazing. He's such a good character. I forget the actor's name now
Rory
too.
Something,
Rory something.
Yeah.
He's fantastic. Is it Kinnear?
Yes, I think it is.
I think it is. He's fantastic. I love that depiction of the character, and that's more in line with Jacob Elordi in this. But yeah, I definitely liked it overall. Again, like it's not my favorite Del Toro movie. I will watch it again at some point, but it's not one that like I saw it a week or two ago, and this week I was like, should I watch it again for the podcast? Like I don't really want to necessarily, but not because I disliked it. I just I don't know that it will give me that many more insights into my take on it already. I'll say so. Yeah, like kind of broad thoughts overall. Definitely enjoyed it. Looks amazing. Totally agree on the costumes. I thought the set design stuff was great. Looked really cool. Loved the creature design. It is definitely reminiscent of Bernie Wrightson. I didn't feel like it was like a 1-to-1 thing. Like it didn't feel exactly like they adapted that look, but it was definitely more in that wheelhouse than like Karloff or any of the other kind of, more pop culture Frankenstein depictions that we know of. I thought the cast all was really good. I have one kind of hot take, although maybe it's not that hot because I've seen other people say it. And I saw other people say it before I watched the movie, and I was convinced I wouldn't agree. But I think I do agree. And it's a weird criticism because it's not, it's a compliment at the same time. I think I love Oscar Isaac. I think he's great pretty much all the time. I think he's great in this movie. I do think he's miscast. He was one for me that at times, I told Austin I kept thinking of this. There's a brief moment in the movie Billy Madison, the Adam Sandler comedy, where they're having like a academic decathlon thing at the end of them. That's kind of the climax of the film, and I believe it's Bradley. God, what's his name? He's the bad guy in the movie. He's the dude that's not Richard Jenkins in Cabin in the Woods. He's the other tech guy. Anyway, his character is doing shit.
Bradley Whitford?
I think that's right. Is that him? Let me just look it up. I think it is Bradley Whitford. Yeah, that's him in Billy Madison, right? Or am I mixing him up?
I don't remember Billy Madison. Billy Madison. Okay.
It's okay. I found it. It is. So there's a brief moment where he's performing Shakespeare. And I kept thinking of that brief moment whenever Oscar Isaac would deliver lines. And I don't know what it is, man. Like there's just something about him doing that style that felt odd to me at times, but it was a very weird phenomenon because I think he's good in the movie. It's not a quality thing. It was more just a thing of thinking like this was probably better suited for a different actor, a different type of look. I don't know.
I may have an explanation for the casting. Apparently, there was a kind of like a talking heads thing between Del Toro and Oscar Isaac. Another YouTube video that I watched afterwards because I was literally like, "This is great. I need to watch everything I can find on this." So they were just talking to each other, and they mentioned the fact that they were meeting at Bleak House, which is Del Toro's residence. Wonderfully,
it's not even his residence. It's his second home for all of his stuff.
Like, oh no, that's right. Yeah. And
it's his very cool clubhouse.
They were talking because they share heritage. Oscar Isaac is actually Oscar Isaac Hernandez, I think is his full name. I haven't got it in front of me to know for sure. But they were talking about their relationships with their fathers and things like that. And I think that there was just this kind of like bonding moment where it was like, okay, you're my Victor. And
yeah.
I think even Isaac himself voiced concerns that he wasn't the actor for it. But they decided to go the way that they did because ultimately the story that Del Toro is trying to tell in his version of Frankenstein is about a strained and fractured relationship between father and son and trying to break the cyclical nature of like bad father, to son creates a bad father to his son. In the same way that when he adapts Pinocchio, and I'm taking this from the horse's mouth, so I don't know if this is the case, but the original book, Pinocchio, was meant to be more about how Italy was a fragmented nation that was coming together under one language. And it's never truly united because there are still, and this is from a football podcast that I was listening to, there are still areas of Italy that are very independent and do not want to be, in the same way that Spain has got like the Catalonian regions, like there are parts of Italy that are just like, no, fuck you, we're not Italian, we're this. It's the same thing here. So I think the idea was that the original Pinocchio was about Italy coming together, but when Del Toro made his version, he was like, no, I want my Pinocchio to be about fascism and about railing against it.
Right.
And I think the same is true of most of his films, even if he adapts something that already exists and already has themes that take it in one direction. If he sees the potential in it to maybe make a statement about something else, which is more personal to him, then he will do that. And so I think ultimately that's a very long way around to get to the point where I say I think he cost Oscar Isaac because he identified more with the character of Victor Frankenstein in this version than he necessarily does with the classic version of Victor Frankenstein.
No, absolutely. And I don't think anyone would take it as me being racist, but and not that you were suggesting that. God, but I also realized the last thing I said was like, it's like a different look. I don't mean racial makeup, but it is like I did think about that, even having not known that context. I did think like, well, I mean, I don't know exactly if I know they're both Hispanic. I don't know where Oscar Isaac's from. I know Del Toro's Mexican, but like to me, it made sense. Why, again, it's a weird thing because it's like I think he's great in the movie. It's not an execution thing. It was more just there were times where the choices he was making felt. I was almost like, I don't know, felt kind of odd where it was like, it almost feels like he's doing what another actor would have done as opposed to, but I'm sure he was directed that way. It was all a choice. Absolutely. And it wasn't that's why I say it's a kind of a weird criticism because it's almost not even a criticism. It was just something that I did at times feel like this is kind of strange.
I get what you were saying. Like, there are some actors that you just don't see in certain roles, and it's not anything to do with race or anything like that. It's just about the kind of characters that they play.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
He's
typically okay. There we go. And he's typically not a unlikable guy. I'm sure there are movies where he has been. I mean, even in Drive, like I think
he was in that.
Wasn't
robot movie where he created a rape robot.
Ex Machina.
Yeah,
I guess that's true. I've only seen that once. But he has a very like charming, charismatic sort of look. I mean, he's not exactly the Han Solo analog in the new Star Wars movies, but he's I loved his character right off the bat. It's like he fit that. So he is playing against type in a lot of ways, I think, too. Anyway, it's definitely a relatively minor thing, but it was one thing that I was surprised that I kind of agreed on. I had seen some people say, like, I don't know, he kind of, it doesn't feel like he fits this movie necessarily, of this world, but he's still great. And then I don't think that there was any other, I was cool with he makes Frankenstein basically have Wolverine's healing factor. I was down with that. Like, I liked the adventure-y, action, Del Toro-y moments in it. The science fiction of it all, I think, definitely pulled me in more than the ghostly gothic stuff that Crimson Peak did. At least this worked for me better. I cared more about the characters. Mia Goth, I think, is good in it. She's not given a ton to do, so her arc and role in the movie is pretty limited. And then once they're done with her, they leave her on a rock in a cave and they continue on. But she's good, and in what the little she has to do, comparatively speaking. I'll tell you one other thing. This is my only other, like, not even necessarily a criticism. I was surprised at how underwhelming the score was. He's had some great scores with it's Alexandre Desplat, right? Desplat, I think.
That's correct.
Double check. Yeah. His Shape of Water score, fucking amazing. Like, and I'm not expecting every single movie to have, it's going to have a score that fits the movie. I felt like there were multiple times throughout it where there would be a little motif or a little melody that would show up in the score, and I would get all excited, and then they would pull back from that. There would be little glimpses of, like, oh, the score is doing this interesting thing or this cool thing, or it sounds amazing. There were some, like, I don't fucking know what instruments they were, harpsichord, organ, whatever, like old school kind of, that I felt like really fit and started to do something awesome, and then kind of pulled away. That surprised me a bit too.
There was... Sorry, I know I keep interrupting, but based on what I saw from that Entertainment Weekly video where it was like the whole village, he was in that, and he spoke about one particular scene where Mia Goth's character first encounters the creature. And he spoke about how he made a conscious choice at one point to essentially silence the entire sound score and just have it like dead silent. For dramatic effect. And he explained it really well, and I wish I had written it down, but I didn't, and I can't go and watch that video right now. So I'm just going to say he does explain his thought process behind it. Whether or not it is successful is another matter, and my gut tells me that I agree with what you're saying, because the score at no point became something that I was like, holy shit, listen to this.
And I would also say, too, like, Del Toro is the kind of filmmaker that anything that for the most part, anything that I like felt like didn't work for me is not because I don't think there was a lack of intent. Like, he's the dude who, like, if it's in the movie, if it's done a certain way, I will always believe and trust that it was very intentional and very much what he wanted to do. And so I watched, I finally got around this week or last week to watching some of the videos that Andi had sent over. One of them was talk about animation in general, and then the other one was a Studio Ghibli sort of like not retrospective, but just kind of like general discussion. And both were fantastic videos. Like I could listen to Del Toro talk about fucking anything. Books I've never read and have no interest in, I could listen to Del Toro talk about them. Like he's just such a one of those people too that like the amount of passion that he has pulls you in, even if it's something that you could not care less about. He'll make you, be more interested and more likely to look it up and see what resonates with him the way that it does. And he speaks so beautifully about art, I think, in general. And yeah, I haven't seen, sounds like as much stuff as you guys have this week about it, but I've seen a bunch of different clips, and a lot of it has been through like TikTok and Instagram reels and stuff like that, where it's snippets from interviews. And all of them, you can tell like he loves this shit. He loves making these movies. There's so many great clips I've seen of Jacob Elordi, and like their relationship in this movie between him and Del Toro, and how Del Toro just, and we've been able to tell this in his career basically since the beginning. He has such love and affection for monsters and for freaks and outcasts. And there's a quote somewhere in the Wikipedia article for this movie where he talks about growing up super Catholic and not really ever resonating or connecting with the saints or the ideas, like the icons.
Yeah.
But then the first time he saw Boris Karloff in Frankenstein in the James Whale movie, he was like, that's a saint. Like that's where it clicked for him, which I think is both kind of hilarious, but then also like emotional and touching to the point it makes me want to cry, of just like that's kind of him in a nutshell in terms of his connection with art. That's the kind of person I strive to be with in terms of my relationship to art, where it is like I think people like Victor Laval, Michael Chabon, like there's tons of people out there that are like this. It's not just Del Toro, but that thing of like being able to see the beauty and the artistic or the artistry and the depth in stuff that is highbrow literature, Miltonian themes and all this stuff, but then also being able to be moved by prosthetics and makeup effects and performances, stuff that is, not considered highbrow and is on the other end of how society views shit like this. When you're able to appreciate and blend and have like a love for that stuff on either end of the spectrum, I think that's an amazing thing. Like it always resonates with me. Like Michael Chabon, the amount of books, literary talent that dude has, and then he's also adding in comic book quotes and shit from, stuff that, the literary world for a long time, maybe still like didn't know how to deal with Michael Chabon because he was talking about shit that they looked down on, but then they had to respect his game because motherfucker is an amazing writer and is writing stuff that's, just elevating the literary genre. So anyway, I guess we're just kind of into the movie now. Overall, definitely really liked it. I loved the stuff with the creature the most. Those were the highlights of the movie for me. When we switch gears midway through and we get the story from the creature's perspective, that was where I liked all of it, but that was where it really sang for me, where we were able to see that journey he has and the way that Del Toro utilized the blind man in the house and that whole kind of journey. I mean, I've talked about this on the podcast. I won't go like super in detail and into a depressing tangent, but like I've been very depressed over the past 3-4 years and have had many ups and downs, mostly downs with that stuff. And I'm in a good place right now this year. Like I've talked about it earlier this year, like I made a bunch of changes. I've lost a bunch of weight. I'm working out every day. I'm meditating twice a day. Like I'm doing really well, and doesn't mean depression's gone. Doesn't mean anxiety's gone. But I feel more equipped now with tools and everything else than I've ever felt in the past, to where I'm able to kind of take care of myself and not feel, as just helpless and everything else. And the thing for me that resonated the most in this movie on that wavelength, on that sort of emotional level, was the section of the film toward the end where he says, I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact quote, but the creature's talking about how he can't die. He's like, you robbed death from me and you brought me back, and now I can't die either. And Frankenstein says, my son, if you can't die, then what choice do you have but to live? And I almost started fucking bawling in the theater, because like that hit me in a way where it was like, I think especially when you come out of a place of really a lot of darkness, and in my case, suicidal ideations, and just the last thing I wanted to do was be alive and, you know, living and walking around on this planet. The amount of emotional sort of resonance that something like that has with me now, to where it's like, I want to live. I want to be able to get the most I can out of life and to search for that and everything else. I don't know how much of that was in the original novel. I haven't read it, but that was an aspect of the movie that really resonated with me. And I loved the whole kind of way that it ended, and that sort of catharsis that he has with his creator, you know, / his father, however you want to say it. Like all the stuff. I thought Elordi was great. I don't have any prior experience or knowledge with his stuff. I know he was on Euphoria. I think he was in Saltburn, which I did not watch, because after Promising Young Woman, everybody loved that. I had my own sort of, I liked a lot of it, but Emerald Fennell for me was somebody where I was like, I don't know that this is for me. So I didn't see Saltburn. I know he's been in other stuff that I haven't watched, but so for me, this was kind of a blank slate performance of like, all right, this is the first time I'm seeing this guy. And then on top of that, I'm seeing him through tons of makeup, and he's having to, like, I don't even know necessarily how much I'm seeing him. But the one thing that I bet I was seeing was his eyes. And you see that a lot in interviews, and they talk a lot about, people have had that reaction, and I think it's spot on. Like, there's a lot of acting and a lot of sadness and emotion and everything else that he carries there in this performance in a way that I thought was very effective, really worked.
So on the point of his eyes, I can't remember which video it was. I think it was Entertainment Weekly, but I could be wrong. They talk about the fact that on one of the first days of Elordi as the creature, he was putting his contact lenses in, and he was originally supposed to have contacts in both eyes to make his eyes like look overly large, but he was having trouble with one of his eyes. He couldn't. He was irritated by the contact. I think it was his left eye that he ended up not being able to wear the contact, and Del Toro actually lent into it to the point that he would only ever shoot the creature on one side when it was angry, and then when you wanted to see the humanity of it, he would only ever shoot it from the other side. So he would only ever shoot him from his left side, so you could see his regular eye when he was trying to humanize him as a character. And then in moments where he was like fighting the wolves, or angry with Victor because he wouldn't make him a wife, that was when you would see the contact side of him. Well, that was very, very interesting. Like, it was not something that they had originally planned on. But the moment that they realized that he was having issues with the contact, it was like, okay, let's switch. And actually, I've got a really cool idea for how we can use this to our advantage. And yeah, you're right. Like, his eyes just absolutely scream out to you in all of his scenes. One scene specifically, sorry to go off on a tangent here.
No.
But it is to do with the movie. There's a couple of scenes in the movie that I absolutely adore. One of them I'll get to because it's, again, referring back to the Entertainment Weekly thing, because it was about filming technique and whatnot. But the other one is when he first washes up on the shore after the castle burns down, and he finds the coat and he puts it on, and it's got like a spine in the back of it, which accentuates like his weird look and everything. But then he wanders into the forest, and he just stumbles upon this like little grove which has got like deer and birds and all kinds of forest animals in it, which, if any humanoid, you could be fucking Snow White. If you stumbled upon that group of animals, they would run off in fear, right? But he stumbles across them, and they just stand there looking at him. And I think they can... I think it's Del Toro's choice to make us subconsciously realise that there's no evil in this creature, and that the animals can sense it. And whereas with other movies that are based around Frankenstein and around this kind of quote-unquote monster, those movies would have it sneak up to one of these deer and break its neck and like tear into its body and eat until it was full. In this version, he picks berries off of the bush and he feeds himself one, and then he's like, oh, I should give one to the deer that's opposite me. And so he picks it off and he gives it to the deer, and the deer takes it really happily. And it's only when hunters turn up and shoot at him that tranquility is broken. I just thought it was just a really beautiful scene which really brought home the innocence of the creature as he was. Not as he maybe became, but certainly as he was when all he had known was fear and torture and pain. And yeah, it's one of those scenes that it just sticks in my head, and I was just like, this was so well done. I really love that scene.
I think that's similar to Karloff and the girl.
Yeah.
Only
Yeah.
that scene turns deadly in a different way.
I thought that was interesting.
Innocent causes a different kind of death.
That was one of the things that surprised me the most in terms of the changes, because that's one thing that's pretty consistent in basically all of the adaptations that I've seen is the little girl, all that stuff, and Del Toro didn't do that at all. Like there is a little girl, I think, that's part of the cabin or whatever, but
Yeah.
it's all with the old man. He also scalps a wolf with his bare hands in that scene, which I thought was pretty cool. That's just a Chris Farley show observation.
Yeah, I fucking.
You guys talked about the eyes, and Del Toro in almost every interview talks about that he casts eyes. He casts actors for their eyes, and especially with Oscar Isaac and Jacob Elordi, he talks about having cast Oscar Isaac because I don't quite remember what he said. He could see the anger or whatever, and with Elordi he could see the sadness or the innocence or something like that. So yeah, that's definitely the case.
Yeah.
The other scene that I mentioned was, and I think we've mentioned it in passing already, but when Mia Goth first meets the creature in that underground sewer system, for want of a better expression. I don't know what that place was originally meant to be, but it's a really cool design. Circles everywhere. I'm just bringing up the notes because I want to get this right, and I'm pretty sure I have got it right.
You're talking about where he has him like chained up.
Yeah, so he's chained up, and she goes over to him, and like she takes one glove off, which mirrors what Victor does when the creature first meets him, where he takes his gloves off to say, "Look, we're the same, we're the same." So she takes one glove off, but then she's like really nervously kind of like touching him, and then he grabs hold of her other glove and pulls it off himself. I don't know if you guys noticed it. I certainly didn't until it was pointed out. But it's actually running at 1.5 speed. Her nervousness and like the jerkiness and like her shaking and everything. So what they did, they filmed it at 36 frames per second, and then they played it back at 24. And I don't know if that works that way.
I
don't think that works that way. Anyway, they filmed it in such a way that it sped everything up slightly, and it made it just slightly not real. You can tell if you look at the water in the background, there are like water drips that they kind of ripple out a little bit too quickly to be natural. But the intention was to make it seem not natural, to make this moment of tense drama that little bit more tense by making it a little bit kind of almost uncanny valley, like taking advantage of that kind of like human response to things that aren't quite right. And to go back to what Andy and yourself have said about the costuming, and especially about Mia Goth's gowns, they mentioned that they wanted her to almost resemble a beetle in that
and
shot.
you can definitely see that because you know she's obsessed with beetles. She studies them, and you can definitely see the reflections and the patterns that they look like. Yeah, when bugs have this colored when they
Iridescent
reflect,
kind of
yeah,
greenish
English words that I don't know, but
Of
yeah,
course,
when they
of course.
reflect light in a colorful way, and you could see the gowns doing that as well.
Yeah, there was a red gown that had blood platelets on it as well, apparently. I completely missed this. But that yellowy greeny gown that she's wearing that is supposed to look like almost like blue bottles or beetles. She's also wearing a purple bonnet, and I think it was the costume designer, or maybe it was Del Toro himself that said, look at the movie. Nobody else wears purple. The only other person that has any purple hue or colouring of them is the monster. and we did that on purpose.
That's
So
cool.
yeah, I don't know if it was almost to try and like subconsciously link the two together, because there is this understanding that she has of him. I don't know if it's more out of just her deep interest in like the symmetry of nature and like seeing this new being that no one else except for Victor has seen, and being able to interact with it for the first time. She's certainly not horrified by him, which is just as well. But yeah, and also the fact that the monster doesn't actually kill anyone out of fury until technically the end of the movie, but actually it's the beginning of the movie. When he kills 6 shipmates, including one who he literally twists his arm off.
He also like punches a guy in half, I think. Like,
Yes.
there's some crazy shit.
But up until that point, he doesn't murder anyone out of spite on camera. The only person he does kill is Victor's brother, and that can be argued as being an accident. Which I'm trying to remember.
Oh, he like knocks him to the side and he hits his head or something.
That's right. Yeah, dies of a head wound, and Victor is the one that kills Elizabeth. He shoots her in the stomach.
Shoots her.
But yeah, I'm trying to think. Go on.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say I'm trying to think of other adaptations and how many of them the monster didn't kill anyone out of spite.
Not Penny Dreadful.
Oh no!
What an intro on that show for the creature. I won't
literally
spoil
killed
it,
his younger brother. Well, yeah, I'm going to spoil it. Fuck
don't
it.
say it. It's in the pilot. It's a great twist. I did not know ahead of time that Mia Goth did her like dual role thing. So I did not pick up. She's wearing like facial prosthetics or whatever, I think, playing Victor's mother. Did not pick up on that at all. I
did not know it beforehand either. When I saw the mother, I was wondering if that's Mia Goth, but then I decided that it probably isn't, and then in the end credits I saw that it was her.
Yeah, I think I was just like, probably a well-respected Italian actress that I have never heard of. Like, I just assumed it was because there are different European actors in the movie that are from similar, like the ship captain guy. I think he plays Thrawn. Like, he's done a bunch of stuff that I've not seen.
He's
so
one
like
of the Mickelsons.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, I didn't realize that either. Like, he's connected to the other one. What's his name?
I don't know if he's connected. Actually, I was
Mads?
thinking of a different family. I saw the name.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he is, but I know, like,
yes,
so yeah,
yes,
I just
he's
assumed.
His brother. He's Mads Mikkelsen's brother.
There we go. So yeah, I did not. It wasn't until later that I was like, oh shit, okay, Mia Goth in a dual role again, like X.
I've learned something today. I even now, up until this very point when Andy mentioned it, I did not realize that was.
And I think effective, slightly on the nose, to be like it's his mom and his love interest, but that's a persistent theme throughout the movie, along with like the color red, and there's different stuff that
coffin design was
pretty cool.
Holy shit!
Yeah, we should bring that back. Just have everybody have coffins like with masks that we can add to it at the last second. I feel like we're winding down here. Do you guys have any other big thoughts you wanted to throw out there about Frankenstein?
I don't.
I would like to broach the subject of Andy's favorite actor, Christoph Waltz.
I almost made this joke earlier.
Yeah. What
I'll
did
tell
he
you
add
one
to
thing.
The movie other than funding?
I'll tell you one thing that I picked up on a vibe, and I asked Austin about it. Austin's watched the movie twice. He didn't pick up on it either time. I've seen other people online mention it, but I got a little bit of a maybe there's an attraction thing between him and Frankenstein, between him and Victor. Not mutual, but there were a couple of times where there's a part where he leans in to get a drink when he first meets Christoph Waltz after the like school thing, like the demonstration or whatever. Where Christoph Waltz like looks in his eyes, glances at his mouth, looks back at his eyes, and then later in the movie when he figures out the lymphatic nervous system thing, and he's like touching his back. I don't know. It made me probably because my head was in a place of like there was stuff with James Whale was gay, and in a time especially when it was not okay to be publicly gay, and there was all kinds of homophobia and shit. Obviously, I think then informed Dr. Praetorius and Bride of Frankenstein the way that character is portrayed and played. So I don't know if some of that shit, I think maybe it was also rumored at first, or like that he was playing Dr. Pretorius in this adaptation, when obviously he's not. He's like an original character, I think. I don't think he's in the book.
No, I think it's an original character that was just brought in for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe to explain how Victor was able to fund all of the experiments.
I think it's that, because that was one thing that I thought was a little... I don't know. I started to say clumsy. It's not exactly clumsy. It's similar to the Mia Goth thing, where it's like, once they don't need these characters for the story anymore, they kill them and move on. Yeah. So there is this kind of thing of like, there is this reveal. And I thought that reveal was cool. I read an article that just talked about that theme in the movie, the idea of like the intersection of science and commerce, and how he's giving him all of these, no strings attached. Maybe someday I'll ask for a favor, blah, blah, blah. And then it's revealed, like, you can see the devastation in Victor's face when he realizes this guy just wants to tap into immortality. He wants this thing for himself and everything else. But then it all, ends very quickly and the movie moves on.
It does. So. It does. I think that it's quite on the nose as far as if you look at certainly how the American economy and also how most technological advances are made. It's very much war economy stuff. And the fact that that Harlander, his character's name, is an arms dealer, I think is quite on the nose.
And that's how they get the bodies.
Yeah, that's quite on the nose in terms of how advances are made. There's only two places that technological advances seem to be made, and that's either by the military or by the porn industry. And never the twain shall meet, hopefully, because Jesus Christ, that would be weird. But yeah, like the reason VHS beat Betamax was because the porn industry was like, yeah, we're going to put all our stuff on VHS.
I would argue there's a third part of that weird unholy trinity, and it's James Cameron. I saw someone the other day talk about.
You're not wrong.
And I agreed when I read it. They were talking about the Avatar movies, and they were like, look, if the Avatar movies have to exist, like there was this particular person wasn't a fan. I like them, so I didn't agree with that aspect of it. But they were like, if they only exist so that he can continue to pioneer filmmaking techniques that then get applied to the entire industry, which has happened multiple times already with that franchise, then great. So yeah, it's the porn industry, the government, and James Cameron.
Fair enough.
It's also the start of a joke somewhere in there, probably. They walk into a bar.
The US government walks into a bar. There's a guy called Bubba in the corner. End of joke.
Yeah. And it's shot underwater and in 3D. All right. Let's do some double feature picks then. I don't want to run over your point, Dave. Was that
that was everything, yeah.
Okay. All right, Andi, kick us off. What do you have for a double feature pick this week?
Both the movies that I have written down have already been mentioned by you guys. The one that I would definitely pick is Del Toro's Pinocchio, because of the father-son. He calls those two movies his father-son movies, like a duology of sorts. And I loved that movie so much. We did an episode on it, Dave and I did, when it came out. And I think it's just a marvel in stop motion, a marvel in storytelling. It's even more important now than it was when it came out. I think a couple of years ago. I think 2 years ago, something like that. Because of its dealings with the rise of fascism, but also the human aspects of the story, the father-son relationships and the relationships between several characters. I want to rewatch it. It made a lasting impact, and I just recently learned, as I told you guys, that Mark Gustafson, the co-director on that movie, just passed away early last year, which I found very sad, because that guy was there's not many people in stop motion anyways. It's a small industry, and I'm very happy now, having learned that Del Toro, in partnership with Netflix, are opening like a big stop motion facility, school, education system, basically. Which is great. So yeah, Mark Gustafson passed away last year, sadly, and Pinocchio is definitely a movie that, if you have not seen it yet, if that is the one Del Toro movie you haven't seen yet, and even if there's more that you haven't seen, I highly recommend watching that movie.
You're speaking directly to me because it is the
Yeah, I
only
know.
Del Toro movie I haven't seen.
I know.
No, I really want to, and I'm excited to watch it. It's one of those that I feel pretty confident I'll really, really enjoy, and was even more, I think, confident of that after you guys watched it and talked about it and stuff too. So, yeah, excited to see it. Cool. Dave, what do you have?
I could go two ways with this. So I don't know. I feel like I probably want to say Crimson Peak, partly because obviously it's a Guillermo del Toro movie. Also, the fact that it was released almost 10 years before Frankenstein was, so there's a nice kind of round number and symmetry going on there. Also, the featuring of red throughout that movie, and one of the main images of Frankenstein that I think of is the mother in the red dress with the billowing veil that kind of dominates the screen whenever she's on. The only other thing I can think of is something else that you mentioned earlier, which is Penny Dreadful, which was it was the TV show that I evangelized about constantly when it was on.
I fucking love that show.
It is
It's
genuinely I think it's possibly the best attempt at a what was the name of that League of Extraordinary Gentlemen style show that has been done, honestly. And I mourn its loss every day. So it will be one of those two. Take your pick. I'm going to give you a triple feature this week. Why the fuck not?
I'm also going to go with the Del Toro movie. And there's so many that you could go with that would work. There's overlap and Venn diagrammy shit happening. This one's obviously very important to me and was a huge one for me. I don't even know that it would be one of my favorite Del Toro movies, but it was a formative one. But the father-son thing in Hellboy, I always loved how he really punched that up with Professor Broom, and there's some of it in the comic, but not nearly as much. And in fact, he dies pretty quickly in the books, and not in a way that he does in the movie. And that aspect of Perlman and John Hurt's relationship always, and I started to say resonates. I have a great relationship with my dad. He's one of my best friends. Like it's never resonated with me in a way that I sense it feels familiar, but resonates in a way that I feel like both of them just nailed that aspect of it. I think Del Toro nailed it in the script too. It's also similarly to this movie where you have kind of a more immediate relationship and then a larger metaphor. I feel like it works really well in Hellboy 2, where he's got that immediate relationship with Professor Broom, but then the larger metaphor of rejecting, his true father, which they don't say it in the movie, but in the comics, at least, I'm pretty sure from what I remember is literally Satan. So it's rejecting that nature and finding humanity. Again, themes that you can see in a lot of Del Toro movies for sure. But the father-son aspect in this one, and then the father-son aspect in Hellboy, I think are two, interesting sides of the same coin. Also, it would be a fun double feature just because Hellboy is so much more action-y. You get the moments of action in Frankenstein kind of feel like how Hellboy felt. Like there was a weightiness to those two movies in the action. I think both in just terms of Ron Perlman as Hellboy's stature and the right hand of doom and all that shit, but Del Toro doing action, I've always really liked the style and the vibe he brings to that. Cool. Nice. Listeners, let us know what you thought of Frankenstein. Feel free to write in if you'd like, eerieinternational@gmail.com. If it is your first time writing in and you don't want us to read your email on air, make sure you let us know in the email. But yeah, we would love to hear from you. Love to read out your thoughts and share them with the world. Let us know what you thought. You can follow us on all the places that we mentioned before, Instagram, Twitter, blah, 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 blah. In the meantime, stay safe out there. Keep watching horror movies, and we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.